everybody for coming, and I'm so happy to see so many Support the Court shirts out there. I'm Denise Rosted. I'm speaking today on behalf of Support the Court, and we welcome you to the dedication of the Owen Onsgard Memorial Courts. We're here for three things tonight. One is to acknowledge and thank. One is to celebrate Owen and his contributions. And the third is to formally present the court to the Houston Public Schools. We can't say we're giving them the court. It belongs to them. It's always belonged to them. We just borrowed it to improve on it, and we're happy to hand it off in a much improved state. To give you a little history of the project and the location, we're going to go to this spot's past. Some of you may remember this was the home of Bill Johnson's gas station and garage. How many remember that? Okay. I asked some people for some stories about that spot, and I heard a couple of good ones. The first one is that when this was the high school and the library was on this side on the alley, certain people who shall go nameless would sneak out of study hall in the library, jump down on top of the buses that were parked there, jump down on the ground, come over to Bill's, get a 5-cent pop, and supposedly get back before they were discovered. I don't know if any of them ever were. But the other story that's a little more appropriate to tonight is that when kids would bring their basketballs and footballs to go play on that playground on the other side of the school, Bill was always willing to let them use the air pump to pump up their basketballs and footballs. So it's only fitting that on this site we now have a beautiful basketball court. The next part of the story is when this became a tennis court after Bill was gone and the school district purchased the property. In the mid-70s, early 70s, tennis was the craze in the United States. And I can remember lines of people waiting to play tennis on this court and the courts behind the high school. The tennis boom faded and the court started to suffer from old age. The surface cracked, the nets disappeared, and the old fence was in worse and worse shape. And that brings us to Owen, a 1974 graduate of Houston High School, someone who spent almost his entire life here. Owen's wife, Lisa, will be sharing the story of how Owen was inspired by that cracked court to begin this project a little later. Owen had been diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2012, and the court became a positive focus for his energies during a very difficult time. In March of 2013, Owen sent out some emails and text messages. The message that came to me, and I don't know why he included me on his list, but it said, "Great project for Houston, meet at the tennis court. Are you in?" I had no idea what it was all about, but we met on the tennis court, and Owen shared his idea. We adjourned the meeting to meet with Alan Mills from Snap Sports, the company that made this surface, and Support the Court was born. A year and a half later, there was a surface here, there were basketball standards here, and hoops and backboards. The net was up for tennis, and just this spring, the fence went up, and just yesterday, the signs went up. Owen had the dream and the drive, but best of all, he knew how to get help. So fundraising began, donations and activities started us on our way. We had 4 very important major donations that resulted in us being able to get up the basketball equipment and the surface. Rochelle Hemiseth, who I knew when she grew up in Houston as Shelley Dittman, donated the cost of all the basketball equipment you see here. That's all thanks to their family, in memory of Helen Dittman. I think it's fitting that Helen was my 5th grade teacher, and when I started teaching in Houston, Sharon Onsgard, Owen's mom, was my mentor. So it all goes together. Shelley told me that Helen was a loyal Houston Hurricane basketball fan, and as her children and their friends would set off to a game, she would stand on the steps of her house, raise her arm in the air, and call out, "Confidence," to prepare them for the game. That's why it says confidence on our sign. We received other major gifts. Bob Kierlin, who has always been a big supporter of the Houston community and donated to so many causes, gave us a very generous gift. The Carl and Verna Schmidt Foundation, also someone who has benefited Houston, including the Nature Center and the library, gave us a very, very generous donation. Is Alan Anderson here? Alan, come up here, please. Everybody's wanted to meet you. Alan is a trustee of the Carl and Verna Schmidt Foundation, and we are so, so happy that you came to join us. Thank you so, so much.
Here for us.
And we hope you'll stick around and have cookies and cake with us a little later. Thank you. We received gifts also from the Dubbin. The Dubbin Classic. Owen and Lisa played in it many years. Carrie Dubs began the tournament and runs it every year during Hoedown and has supported many Houston projects. Carrie is a very good friend of Owen and Lisa, and we thank her for her generosity to the Houston community. We received other large donations from present and former community members, groups, and businesses, and they are acknowledged on our sign: Ascentec, Eastwood Bank, Houston Money Creek Snow Riders, Scott Carlson, and Thrivent. But the last acknowledgement on the sign is to all of the Houston community who donated. No sign would be big enough to name all the names. The Houston Lions put on a fundraiser, pancake breakfast, for the project. Karen Todd donated money along with her grandchildren from the Dennis Todd Memorial Tournament. Tri-County Electric gave us 2 Operation Roundup awards. Kim Rosted coordinated the t-shirt sales and the materials used for the sign making. The Hurricane Foundation was a very big support to us. Member Lisa Jervis directed as they served lunch for the Centec's annual meeting as a fundraiser for us. And Kelly Beckman of the Hurricane Foundation coordinated to support the court, served lunch for Holodazzle. Rich Carr let us sell our t-shirts at the Root River Market and donated the cake and cookies you will shortly be enjoying. Rick Bartz, our elementary principal, gets credit for our dirtiest project, cleaning up the Hoedown grounds every morning after Hoedown for 2 years in a row. Never again. But Owen and his family participated every morning, and Owen never complained once. The Hurricane Foundation was our financial agent. Its treasurer, Eileen Hagelin, ably kept track of our donations and paid our bills on time. Audrey Hagelin was our grant writing queen, making the contacts needed for some of our most generous gifts. Matt Shuddy was largely responsible for the boots on the ground work of coordinating construction with Snap Sports and making sure the fencing was installed this spring. Chris Lee of Hurricane Foundation and Tony Schultz of Support the Court helped publicize. Matt and Tony got the signs up yesterday. And Ann George, who is a native of Houston, now living in the cities, is an artist now, and she helped us with the design of the signs. And an interesting side note is, if you can find the right yearbook, there's a picture of the only Houston high school tennis team, and Ann is on that team. So again, it goes full circle. There are many others present here, and I see all of you and thank you, who helped us in many ways, big and small, to bring this dream to fruition. And on behalf of Support the Court, we thank every one of you. Owen was interviewed by the Caledonia Argus in October of 2013. And the last lines of the interview ended with these words, as he imagined kids shooting hoops and learning to play tennis. "It's gonna be beautiful," he said. "It's gonna be awesome." Oh, and I learned very early on never ever to argue with you. And I won't argue with you now because you were right. It is beautiful and it is awesome. So that's the history and the thanks and the acknowledgments. And now I would like to present someone very special, Lisa Onsgard, and her son Odin, who will make the court presentation to Superintendent Corinne Abraham, if you would like to come up, and Principal Rick Bartz. I know you're here somewhere, if you would come up too.
Odin told me to stop crying. And I don't think that's going to happen. Thank you all for coming. Your support means a lot to us. And I remember I came home from work one day. I'm going to tell the story of how this started. Odin and Owen were laying on the couch, and Owen was pretty sick. And that's what they did. They laid on the couch, and they spent a lot of time together. And they were watching a show called Vanilla Ice Project, right? And it was, Mom, you're never going to guess what Dad and I are going to do downtown. And it was what? And this was it. And the next week, Owen contacted Snap Sports, and that's kind of how it started. A friend of ours actually has a small court in his backyard, and we saw it years and years ago, and it was awesome. They're so versatile, and you can do just about anything out here. Owen got sick in February of 2012, and this court gave him something else to think about rather than his cancer. It's really too sad that he didn't make it long enough to see it, because this is exactly what he envisioned. I really want to thank you, Denise, because when you came back to town, you were like a godsend. And Owen was so happy that you came back and you were able to help him with all of it. And Matt, you too. It was every day, I gotta call Matt, I gotta call Denise, I gotta get a hold of Denise, where is she? Why isn't Matt answering his phone? So it was a lot of work from a lot of people, Eileen and Audrey, and I can't name everybody. And I just want to thank you all.
Anything you want to say?
Odin and I and my family would like to give one more gift, and that would be a dozen basketballs. We purchased this last week, and we would like them to be here at the court, so everybody can use them. If some kids in town don't have a basketball, and we would like them to be left here, and hopefully everyone will take care of them, and that they can stay here and everybody can use them. I'm done. On behalf of Support the Court and my family and my husband and, my son, I present you with the court. This is really easy to maintain, and I'm hoping that everybody really takes the time to clean up after themselves and take care of this, because when Alan was here, he said all you gotta do is spend 5 minutes and it's gonna last forever. So, thank you.
And I want to thank everyone so much for coming. I'm going to say a few words and call Mr. Anderson back, because we who are here know when an Onsgard sets his or her mind to something, it happens. We have a bike trail, a glorious bike trail, and Sharon, Owen's mom, was one of those movers and shakers to get that trail into town. And when Denise was talking about Helen Dittman teaching 5th grade, Sharon was her counterpart. So it is only fitting that this court has parts of both of them. And this court, for those of you who are old enough to remember, is now sitting right next to the band room when this was the high school. And those of you that know Owen know that if you didn't find him in the classroom where he was supposed to be, he was in the band room with the record player cranked and listening to something. So it's only appropriate that he did something for the town, something for the kids. And it's right next to the room where he loved to hang out. But we know that about them. And the fact that other people from other funding sources also saw the potential here is something we need to remember. And so, Mr. Anderson, I asked if Mr. Anderson would say a few words about why the foundation on which he sits saw this as a worthy project.
I feel I can add very little to this event, but just a few words. Carl Schmidt was a mink farmer in St. Peter, Minnesota. I just happened to be his tax accountant. I was his tax accountant for 30 years, between 1970 and about 2000 when he died. He had no family. When he died, he left his estate to something called the Carl and Verna Schmidt Foundation. Carl Schmidt was raised very, very simply. He was a graduate of Gustavus, which is in St. Peter, but he named me as a trustee just because I happened to be there at the right time. The trustee appointed 5 grant members, and we meet every month, and we make contributions to 501c3 organizations, not-for-profit organizations. He left a lot of money. He left about $30 million, and we give about $1.2 million away each year. We try and scatter it through southeast and south central Minnesota. We stay out of the Twin Cities. We try and stay away from professional fundraisers. So a project like this just kind of fit what we do and what we like to do. So I'm happy that our part, and there are many other donors, so I don't want to be the only one, but I'm happy that it could work out for you. And as I drive home, I'm an accountant at Rochester, as you know. Why it gives me great satisfaction also to see a project that actually works. So best luck as you go forward, and thank you very much.
We sometimes take for granted the absolute gem we have here in Houston, with not only what we have, but with who we have. And our real treasure in this town is and always has been our people. And so for those of you that worked so hard on this project, I thank you. I thank you on behalf of the school district, and I thank you on behalf of the school district's children who are going to get years and years of just absolutely phenomenal times on this court. Now, I'm turning it back to Denise. Thank you.
All right, we did it. Yay! Everybody who worked for so long. I will admit there were times I was skeptical. The one person who was convinced from the beginning this would happen was Owen. Absolutely. So today we're a little sad that he's not here with us, but we celebrate his spirit, we celebrate his ambition, his drive, his ideas, and now we celebrate, courtesy of Root River Market, with lemonade and cookies and cake in the elementary gym. So please come and join us, and thank you for coming tonight.